Ultimately, where we're going is wearable computers. Now, this is where I get into flying car territory. And a few years ago, in fact, people thought this was really crazy. But now, some of the boys, and it's pretty much boys, from Google are starting to wear something they call Google Glass. And what these are so-called heads-up goggles. And they're basically regular eyeglasses that also connect to your computer so that you can see the world and also see your computer screen. Now, I've tried several of these, Google Glass and one of their competitors. And actually, I like the competitor better. It's an Israeli company that'll be distributed through an American company here. The glasses they made for me were, bigger than these. They were pretty beefy. They're going to have to work on the style a little bit. But it connected wirelessly to my mobile phone. And then it projected right down here where the bifocal area is. You could actually sort of see the computer screen as if it was floating out in air, about 50-inch screen. You could still see the world behind it, but you could actually see what was on the phone. So first time I tested it, I went out on the street. I had an Android phone at the time, and I had it voice programmed. So I said, "Where am I?" And it pulled up the map of where I was, projected over the real view of the city. So that kind of technology, it's called augmented reality, is more and more common now. You're seeing software programs that, for example, let you look at a restaurant, and the reviews, the online reviews of the restaurant will appear to float above the restaurant, all seen through these glasses. Now, Google says they'll be selling these by the end of the year. I think that's optimistic. The Google Glass ones don't work quite as well as the more expensive ones that I tested. But gradually over the next 3 or 4 years, I think we will start to see these wearable computers. Apple and some of the Japanese manufacturers think that they will be wrist computers. It remains to be seen. Now, you may be dubious about wearing these goggles. And it does sound odd, but keep in mind, first of all, how many of us walk through airports with those blinking Bluetooth headsets on. They're starting to make those look like pieces of jewelry. They're so common. And then think about today's 10-year-olds. For today's 10-year-olds, wearing heads-up goggles is not going to be that big a jump. In fact, it may even save some neck vertebrae, right? You won't have to walk around like this all the time. So there might even be a boomer market. In fact, this is the application I have for heads-up goggles. It's called What's Their Name? And all these glasses have little cameras built in. That's trivial, easy to do. So you're wearing your glasses, you're walking down the street, you see someone coming towards you. You've met them, but you can't quite remember their name. So you say very quietly, "What's their name?" And your glasses take a picture of them, search LinkedIn, Facebook, Google Images, come back a microsecond later, say Michael Rogers, and you go, "Hi, Michael, it's good to see you again." I'd pay for that. By the end of this decade, though, I think we're going to be amazed at how much high-speed wireless broadband there is everywhere in the United States. A couple things are driving that. The first is a number of new technologies that make our use of airspace much more efficient. In fact, there's airwave space already available that was freed up when we went from analog TV to digital TV that we haven't even started to use yet. That will be used for very, very powerful broadband. And then secondly, the federal government has finally said that broadband is a true national priority. Late last year, the FCC began to change the Universal Service Fund, which is that mysterious little charge on your phone bill that actually goes to guarantee that anyone anywhere in the United States, whether you're in the wilds of Wyoming or the inner city, can get a voice telephone line for a reasonable price. That's a guarantee the federal government's made for many years. That's being changed to say that wherever you are in the United States, wilds of Wyoming, depth of inner city, you can get a 4 megabyte broadband connection at a reasonable price. Significant shift, because what that really is the federal government saying broadband must be everywhere to make the United States a competitive nation. And that makes a powerful difference. I think by 2020, losing your internet connection will be almost as serious as losing your electricity. So many things you own will not work as well, from your car potentially to all of your communication devices. I think by 2020 we may end up having to teach kids born then what offline means, because online will be the normal state of life. That's perhaps best typified by a story that Steve Jobs once told me. I knew Steve for many years, and he never liked to predict the future unless he had something to sell. Then he could see the future pretty clearly. He's a good businessman, but once, and this is a little sad now that he's no longer with us, but once I got him to talk about the future by asking him, Steve, what kind of computer will you be making when you're 75 years old? And he told this story. He said, well, let's see. At that time, he was working on the iPad, so of course it was a tablet. He says, it's a tablet, but incredibly thin, super lightweight, incredibly high resolution, gigantic amounts of memory, huge radio connection to the cloud, so it's constantly connected, voice input, voice output, and lots of intelligence built in. And he said, it sort of works this way. He says, maybe you get this and it's your first adult computer. You're 12 years old and today I am a man, today I am a woman, and you get your first adult computer. So you take it out of the box and the first thing it does, it says, hi, what's your name? You say, my name's Steve. It says, oh, pleased to meet you, Steve. And this computer becomes the absolute center of your life. Everything goes through it. Your homework, your music, your movies, all of your communications with friends, all your thoughts, your diaries, absolutely everything goes through this computer. Now, so far, that's not that different than today's 12-year-old with their laptop. But this computer is very intelligent. So Steve says, for example, you're walking along on a Wednesday afternoon, and the computer knows you're walking because it's got GPS. So it says, Steve, where are we going today? And you say, I'm going to my tennis lesson. And the computer says, oh, do we go to our tennis lesson every Wednesday at this time? If so, I'll remind you from now on. And via this kind of thing, it insinuates its way into your life. It becomes your helper, your companion, sort of an agent foreseeing what you're going to need. And then Steve finished the story this way. He said, then one day you're 18 years old. You're sitting up in your bedroom on a Friday night, and the computer says, Steve, why aren't we out tonight? And you say, oh, I just broke up with my girlfriend. And the computer says, Steve, it's the third time it's happened that way. Do you want to talk about it?